Hi everyone, my name is Whitney and I'm going to be talking to you about some advice for upcoming students in the vascular sonography program. My three biggest pieces of advice for incoming students would be to, number one, stay confident. It seems like a long road, especially at the beginning, but no matter what background or previous knowledge or experience you're coming with, if you're motivated enough, then you can do it. So find what motivates you and use it. I came from a teaching background. I had very little science, biology, or medical knowledge, but I had a big reason to motivate me through, and I kept that in mind when things got tough. So use a mantra if you need to. My dad always told me to find solutions, not problems. So when I'm feeling stressed, that's my mantra: solutions, not problems. And I remember that even small successes go in the win column. Number two would be to plan it out. I cannot stress enough how important it is to plan out your workload and your schedule each week. Look ahead, make sure you know your future assignments, projects, and your end goal, and you're giving yourselves plenty of time to complete everything in the amount of time that you have. Planning is one of my biggest strengths. I feel like it helps me to stay on top of everything and to not get overwhelmed. If I make it part of my schedule every day, then I know I'm allotting myself time to get it done. It's easy to get off track and get behind in the work, so planning and scheduling will help you to stay on top of it. Just make sure you leave yourself a little buffer period. Sometimes things tend to take longer than you think, and you don't want to be rushing through assignments at the end. That's not really learning. Another thing is to make sure you take a day off here and there. Saturdays are always our day to take off from school, relax, do something fun, get our mind off it, maybe get some real life things done around our house, anything else we need to do, and then next week we get back to it. Lastly, number three, be your own advocate. Take initiative in your learning. This is your program. No one's going to do it for you. You have to take the reins and get it done. Don't be afraid to speak up and be your own advocate, either in the classroom or in the clinical setting. Teachers and clinical mentors aren't perfect. They won't always be aware of or care about your needs as a student unless you make them known. You don't have to be embarrassed about it. You're there to learn. When my original clinical site wasn't panning out, I was feeling very stressed about being able to start the program at all. I went out and I called vascular labs all over my city, sometimes multiple times, until I found Roper, where I am now. Not everyone is going to have the same sense of urgency as you do or be on the same page with you. If you need more scan time or to learn a new study, then just say so. If the resources you have aren't suiting you or you need some additional ones, then just do your own research, create your own resources or study tools, even contact your instructor, let them know. In terms of challenges and successes with the program, test prep, and exams, with tests within the courses, I made a point to make study guides for any tests, midterms, and finals. I divided them by topics, so usually I just went lesson by lesson. I would pull out important information from my notes, questions, and use the quiz questions and put it all together for each lesson into one study document. And I would just add to it whenever we had the next test. That way it wasn't too much by the final. I would review my notes, but mostly I would just study from that. It was extra work, but easier to go through than having all of my notes from the whole semester. In terms of challenges, I think of board exam studying, just finding a way to organize and divide up the topics and then studying in a way that makes sense and feels manageable. If you don't know where or how to start, you're going to keep finding ways to put it off. For the physics registry exam, I'm going to be honest, I really disliked the Melee textbook and the materials. Instead, I bought the Edelman book about halfway through the semester, and from there I did my own learning and studying. It definitely broke it down more and was easier for me to understand. I think the Melee was just too much. I found the Edelman questions, the Exone, and the mock registry exams to be the most helpful for that one. There was no pressure on those. It gave you a chance to really test yourself and take the topics you needed to focus on and study those further. But having something that was similar to the registry itself to prep was really key. I also created a set of flashcards that I luckily started back when I took the first Intro to Physics course, and then I continued those, adding on through our physics class in the semester, and I used those a lot right before too. Concepts that I struggle with the most, physics mostly, because even though there is a correlation between the material and scanning, I didn't like it that much. It's not as concrete to me as working with the anatomy and the vascular material. It was harder for me to connect a majority of the physics principles to the hands-on things that I was doing, which brings me to my next point. Studies and materials that I did not see often in clinical was a lot harder to make connections with and retain, especially TCD and intracranial information. So I had to do additional studying, creating of my own resources for that, such as drawings, charts. I also made a PowerPoint. So as the lessons progressed, I would just add slides of information to that I thought were the most important or going to be the most helpful for me to study. I would also do additional research on my own to find good images of either anatomy or duplex ultrasound images or charts. That way, at the end of the course, I had another great condensed resource to use to study for the exam. Strategies that I developed throughout the course and the program. I'm definitely a hands-on learner, as I feel like most people in this program are. So the repetitive scanning helped me the most with learning the anatomy, physiology, and the protocols. Making connections between knowledge and scanning helps the information to click for me, and it becomes more of those innate skills. It enables you to move into the advanced learning stage where you're really able to connect with the clinical case studies and work with the other texts to analyze and problem solve those cases and those patients. Goals that I have achieved are many, but the biggest goals that I have achieved are making relationships with my clinical staff and feeling comfortable with my mentors to learn and ask questions, which led me to feeling really confident in working with patients and scanning independently, which, if you think about it, is the ultimate goal. When we're completing the program, we want to be able to get in there and work with patients independently, where we feel like we really have a handle on it and we can do it by ourselves. How did I engage the learning plan? The Vascular Registry Learning Plan website worked for me because it allowed me to piece up week by week the studying so that I didn't feel overwhelmed at the end. It built on the knowledge as the weeks went on and provided different review and study techniques. It gave you the text reviews, which areas of the textbooks to go back and read through for that week for those topics. It included videos, the flashcards, which I really liked, and most of all the weekly quizzes. I use those weekly quizzes and sometimes the flashcards to again create my own study guide and my own materials so that I could go back, study from that, and pull out that important information and have everything ready to go for me to study for the exam. Piecing it up week by week is really the key there. That's really what I did with everything in all of the courses and for the board exams. Like I said, it just helps it to not feel as overwhelming at the end. So hopefully that advice is helpful and you can use it towards your own learning and completing the program with success.